Hello, everybody. I'm back once again with Konstantinos from Para Bellum Wargames, and we're going to be taking another look at a spotlight on the world of EA for Conquest, the last argument of kings. So this week's spotlight is another tale of the Wedron, and it's the tale of the flying hummingbird. So a bit of a character piece on this one.
Indeed. It's the story and the background of Nagral of the Coati. Now, people might recognize Nagral as the Wedron on our animated video when the Wedron were released. He's the guy that's talking to the orders and tells them, look, we're coming. It's your choice if you're going to honor the deal and let us through, or if we're going to have words. But it shows exactly how such a character that pretty much led most, not all, but most of the roaming tribes that weren't established in one of the oases across the Cloisterine Mountains and into the 100 Kingdoms, because I think it's only natural to assume that such a character has a strong background in the sense that a very determined personality would dare do something like that and try to honor a deal that was made centuries ago when he wasn't even alive.
It's certainly one way of doing it. It's fascinating because with the Wedron having a goddess in their midst and being so focused on her, the story puts together this character who, I suppose, while lesser compared to many of his contemporaries, he was always looking for ways to excel, to find his own place, and because of that, he drew her attention. And I won't spoil the spotlight for people, but it was that sort of character that led him to be able to bind together these desperate tribes, the various clans, to actually move forward as well.
Yes, I think that is kind of the essence of the spotlight. In a sense, yeah, sure, it's the story of Nagral, but what we wanted to underline here was that the Wedron society is very competitive and very harsh. The Ukunfazane, while worshipped, she is not a kind, well, she might be kind, but she's not a mild ruler, let's say. She's not an all good personality that righteously leads her people forward. She does what she thinks it's necessary for her people to survive, and considering the situation in which her people found themselves and the fact that they're a few centuries old civilization that pretty much sprout out of nowhere, we wanted to underline exactly that. Yes, there are very, very strict lines about a Wedron's life, that they will follow this path, they will be bound, or they will be braves, or they will be in the cults. But exceptional individuals do find a way to break that pattern. Yeah. Granted, there is also an implication because this tales replicate something that we said also in our Conquest campaigns book. And there is also a small piece in the beginning that says that, yes, Nagral did all this. It was his choice. It was his idea. But was it his choice, the tales that he would hear growing up? Was it his choice, the mentality that he would get while becoming part of the cult of Conquest, or while being next to the Ukunfazane? Yeah. So we do put the hint of doubt there that, yes, this is a very strong individual. This is a very determined individual, but even those are kind of shaped to a greater or lesser degree, but depending on circumstances, by the circumstances that created them. So we want to, and I would like to say here that people should keep in their minds that the Ukunfazane is a very, very clever being. What her people think is their idea is not always their idea.
Yeah, there are certainly hints of that towards the end of the story in the spotlight as well. Just moving away from the spotlight itself and focusing on the character, he binds together these tribes and he moves across that spine of the world, the Cloisterine Mountains. That's tied into the living world as well that you play out.
Yes.
So does the background inform the direction that the living world is going to take, or how much of the player base informs the living world, if you will, and how they take it on?
In a way, I think the important thing here is that the living world is, in a way, role-playing, if you think about it. It's role-playing that is decided by the community at large. And it's always nice if you know the background of the story,
Sure.
of the character that you're role-playing.
Yeah.
Of course, characters can change. That is part of the living world. We try to present choices that are not... even though they might lead to different outcomes, they are not against what the character's essence is.
Yeah.
We have seen a great part, because right now, for instance, Nagral is not active in the living world, because we watch his story as he crossed the mountains. He tried to make deals with various noble lords until he was kind of gently shoved into Reesmark, which at the time was on everyone's blacklist, let's say. The idea was exactly that the Conclave, including the Rus, because the Rus have a very kind of, let's say, tense relationship with Reesmark and their neighbors in general. The idea was exactly that they wanted to isolate Frederick, the king of Brandengrad and effective ruler of the entire Reesmark province. The idea was exactly to push them more. And Nagral kind of defied their expectations in the sense that he proved less barbarian than they thought he'd be.
Right.
He made deals. He secured a land for his people while in a way being vassals to the local rulers. And that was an aspect that we wanted to show. And I think that also shows in his spotlights. That is something that continued. He's not a barbarian. Sure, he doesn't have the sophistication perhaps and culture of the 100 Kingdoms, but that doesn't make him a barbarian. He's a very, very clever man, very sophisticated, very educated in many things that any 100 Kingdoms ruler would not be. And he is not just there to kill and plunder. He's there to create a corner for his people. And he achieved that already. We will see later on the continuation of that story. And this is why the spotlight is here, to kind of remind people where we've been and where we're going. So it's a bit of the past and the future, exactly as you said.
It'd be fascinating to see where that goes as well, because with the Rus on the eastern flank of the 100 Kingdoms, you would sometimes look at that and you go, well, if you look historically, there have been times where massive population migrations have then had a knock-on effect. I'm thinking of Rome, so the Goths and the Visigoths being pushed down further by migrating tribes, then pushed them into Roman territory and started conflicts there.
Exactly.
Wouldn't have ordinarily seen. We may see something similar in the future. Or maybe not. Maybe everybody will live peacefully, which is the nice thing about the living world, that people have their own ideas that they can essentially sort of vote on or put their input in to help to shape the world that they're all collectively playing on. So
that is true, and we give that kind of leeway to our audience to decide many things. Of course, this is still a war game world, so the conflict will be there one way or the other. But that comes to something we've discussed with previous spotlights as well, that while Nagral and some of the tribes created, because he couldn't secure land for all of the tribes, the Wedron are very demanding resource-wise. So while Nagral created, in a way, a new oasis, and I think this is very interesting to kind of note that he underlined the unfairness of some tribes leaving, and he was molded by the unfairness of some tribes leaving in the oasis while others struggled and rotated around trying to trade and live with scraps. He was forced to replicate the same thing. 1, 2, maybe 3 tribes could settle, but the rest should go. The different thing he did is that we should rotate. We should come. But this created exactly the dynamic that, okay, some leaders of other tribes might follow a completely different path. And this is part of what we want, that different people that are playing the Wedron might want to play a different story, and we left that room for them in the world. The world is large enough for any story to be told, or almost any.
It's what people want to see. Explore the world in your own particular way. If people are interested, you can check out the Spotlight now, the tale of the flying hummingbird, and see exactly how Nagral came to reach these sort of heady heights of consort and then leader. But we'll leave it there for now. If anybody's any questions, feel free to pop them below, and I'll pass them across to the guys at Para Bellum. Constantinos, thank you very much.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.